Hey y'all, this is Earth coming at you with a bit of news actually for those of you who are into the Faeria scene, those of you that do exist on this channel. March 8th brought with it a new set of patch notes actually. The game has been patched, there have been some balance changes going on, and some of them are pretty damn significant. So I want to kind of take this time to talk about them briefly, and this can all be found on the Faeria.com website. It's all there. I can provide a link in the description, which I will do. But we're going to go through this one by one, card by card, to see what the changes are and what I think about them and what the balance is going to strike then. So, the first one first, I mean, I want to say this is the big one, but given the different archetypes out there, easily argue that the other changes are pretty big too. But the first change is to Azure Sky Whale. This used to be a 6/6 flying creature that required 8 wild lands, and it swallowed your opponent's creature when it hit the board, any creature you chose, and also had charge 3. So pretty dangerous threat, can be very swingy, especially in draft. But this card used to be epic, so purple, so not legendary but epic, and now the card rarity has changed from epic to legendary and has been renamed to Moby. Clever dick. The Azure Sky Whale. So now there's only one permitted per deck, which changes the balance considerably. So let's just read what they said first and we can talk about it. So one of the most iconic cards of the Oversky is being shifted into the legendary slot. So it made clear to us that this card is creating an environment where players feel too vulnerable in playing specific decks or playstyles that involve investing Faeria into large, powerful creatures. We believe that by decreasing the prevalence of this particular card, players can feel more comfortable playing a wider variety of decks. Now, that is true, and while I never really got too bothered by blue-green ramp, which tended to be the decks that used Sky Whales, because those are one of the few decks that could just spam out 8 lands relatively quickly. Because I played Yellow Rush, which was kind of the hard counter to blue-green ramp. This is a massive change, because, like you said, they said it pretty well. I mean, blue-green ramp was a hugely powerful deck in the game. Obviously, there's other factors. There's Frogify. There's all the taunt creatures. There's Frog Tosser. I mean, I can go on. This is just a powerful combination. But the capstone was the Sky Whale. Like, your opponent gets a big threat, Sky Whale it. And you got 2 more if that happens, you know? So it was a very, very powerful deck, and it was really forcing the meta to adjust around it. And now, by reducing the number of Sky Whales per deck, it's a big shift. I think it's good for the meta, honestly. I think there was a lot of belly aching about the swallow mechanic, especially given in a 6/6 charge 3 form that you sometimes can't chase down, basically, especially if it's containing your win condition. So, yeah, I can see how that's frustrating, and having one creature do that, cool. It's a big play, it's a big swingy, do it at the right time, you can get a win, but it's not like, well, I just got another whale, you know, it's kind of game over. And you have other swallow mechanics too. You still have the crystal flower and a couple other things, so I think this is a good change for the meta. I mean, obviously everyone who plays BG Ramp with Sky Whales is going to be like, my deck is over, but I still think BG is a powerful combination, and they'll come through this better. Maybe we'll see more Yakapults or something. Anything requires a lot of wild lands, right? So, all in all, I'm pretty happy with this change. I think the meta was warping around BG Ramp too much, and there you go. So, there's change 1. I think I agree with it, but we'll see how that shifts the meta. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Who knows? Alright, the next one, Earthcraft. So, this used to be a 2 Faeria requiring 1 forest, and it would put down a land of your choice onto the map. Now Earthcraft has been changed to read, change to transform one of your existing lands. Okay, so it doesn't make new land anymore. You just change one of your existing ones. So, let's read what they said, and I'll tell you what I think. This change aims to make it slightly more difficult for green-supported decks to ramp so quickly to the high color thresholds necessary to play very powerful cards, while at the same time providing a small degree of increased utility. By design, green is meant to have the most powerful land ramp, but we'd like to see more diversity in the ramp cards players choose to include in their decks. Okay, so this is kind of a 1-2 punch to BG ramp, obviously, because Earthcraft there was 3 of in every single BG ramp list I've ever seen. And so it was very, very, very powerful. This I'm unsure on. I mean, it's a powerful ramp option too, and green has a lot of ramp options. What's your other, like, whatever color you want option in green has? Seed of Paradise, right? Which requires it to survive, it needs to harvest over the ocean. it's a little hard to get that ramp down. So it basically has the effect of slowing down any green, either supported or green main decks, which I see as valuable. You get up to higher land counts, you get Feed the Forest, you get Therian Golems, you get some really crazy shit early, and that can snowball like crazy. So I can see how they want to slow down those kind of heavy land requirement big hitters late game. So I think it's a fair change. I don't actually have a playset of Earthcraft, so I never really ran it in any deck, so I can't tell you how crippling this is for that archetype. I think if you splash green, I think you've got a lot of other acceleration options. You've got Wood Elementals, if you're playing main green, mono green, right? Wood Elementals, you've got Seed Sowers, you've got Wild Growth, you've got Vine Walls. I mean, to a more or lesser extent, obviously, but there's ways to get your green and your forests up going. But this basically just slows down other decks that splash green. So you can't just get those like 4 islands up quickly, or like 3 islands up for Frogify, or whatever else you might need them for. So, I mean, we'll see how this affects the meta, because I think it's going to be, it might weaken green as a color in general to splash into decks, even though green is still really powerful with fat stuff and really good buffs. But it's a 1-2 punch to BG ramp, honestly. That's really what this mostly is, and especially because Frog Tosser requires, 2-2, so 2 forests, 2 islands, or lakes, sorry. God, I'm going to get sued by MTG. If they ever watch the channel, no one's going to care. And 2 wildlands. So, everything that's really kind of crazy functional has been slowed down. So we'll see how this affects the meta. I'd be curious. My guess is faster decks will be a little better here overall, besides BG Ramp getting, the death knell. But alright, Earthcraft. We'll see how it happens. Next up, okay, Flash Salmon, the thing. It's the thing. It's the thing that affects my deck the most, so this one hurt. So, Flash Salmon. So 1 Faeria requires 2 deserts, and it can't harvest Faeria, but it has haste, charge 2, and that's about it. So now, Flash Salmon is divine. Cannot be targeted by events or abilities. So let's see what they say, then we can talk about it, huh? Flash Salmon is one of our favorite cards from Oversky, but we're not entirely happy with how effective it can be combined with cards like Demon Wrangler in aggressive yellow decks. I thought that was the point. Rather than Salmon be so frequently used as a sacrifice fodder, the addition of Divine should see them more often disappearing in a flash. Now, one could argue that the flavor of the card was being abused by the way it was being used, because the other thing with Flash Salmon is when it dies at end of turn, which is the trigger, then it gives you a card draw. It was a way of getting card draw in decks normally don't have card draw. What we started doing with Yellow Rush is getting Demon Wranglers to run their gift on this thing, and then have the Flash Salmon hit the face, hit the orb, and transform into a 5/2 Deathwing, which is, not too bad. So obviously, this nerfs Yellow Rush in its current incarnation. I want to put that caveat down. I mean, for me, I used Flash Salmon a lot in my Yellow Rush. It enables your Zealous Crusaders. It gives you that +1/+1 every time you hit orb. It gives you cycle to get those solutions you don't otherwise have. It's a very functional card. It's a removal in a pinch. There's a lot of really good functions to it. And I think they just want to take away so you can get a 5/2 in that position whenever the hell you want. So I can see the logic why they did it. I'm going to see how Yellow Rush is going to be affected by it. It's going to hurt the yellow decks for sure. Green, yellow sack, not the biggest deal. Again, it was a pretty good sacrifice target for Demon Wranglers for the same reason, getting a 5/2, but at least that gives that deck card cycle, and if you put it near a Bone Collector, it still dies and gives you the buff. So I think, yes, it's a nerf, but not as much for green, yellow sack. For Rush, it's a much bigger nerf. We'll see how it goes, but like people say, I'm kind of, copacetic about the whole thing. Yellow Rush was pretty good before there was Flash Salmon. I'm pretty sure the build is going to evolve and still be pretty decent. It's going to be in a very different form than it used to be. That's my opinion. But yeah, this hurts. I like Flash Salmon a lot, and now it's going to be, I can probably think about cutting it at some point for something else that might fill that slot a little better. Alrighty, on to the next one. Okay, next one, Sky Yak. Faeria cost increased from 3 to 4. The only card, well, not the only card, but I'd say one of the cards where it's 3 of or not at all. This was kind of crazy. Honestly, it's a card. Effectively, what happens is it's a 3/2 flyer that can be summoned next to friendly creatures. So you can kind of summon it up the board. And what it does is that when it comes into play, it spawns another yak for every yak that already died. Friendly yak that died. So let's see what they say. and then we'll talk about it. Without the proper tools available, a board half full of Skyax can be extremely difficult for many decks to deal with. We're making it a little more of a task to reach that point in the game by increasing the Faeria investment required. Okay, fair point. So what was Skyak used in? Well, Skyak was definitely used in green-yellow sacrifice for obvious reasons. Gives you more sacrifice targets, things die, it's potentially removal in a pinch because you just run 3/2 Yaks into it. Basically, you play the first Yak, you get 1, you play the second Yak, you get 2, you play the third Yak, you get 4. And then someone goes, dude, let's throw Aurora's Creation on this shit, where you basically copy a creature that's already on the board and put it in your hand. And suddenly, if all those Yaks are dead, your next Yak gives you quite a lot of Yaks. I'm not gonna lie, you have 8 Yaks at that point. So that kind of ended up filling the board with Yaks, and that ended up being not fun, according to the developers. I never really faced a deck like that because I rarely got in that situation. I think I wasn't high enough on the tier list to do that. But let's just say that sounds horrifying. Unless you have a Firestorm ready, and God help you if they draw another Skyak or another Aurora's Creation, you might be in a bit of a bind. So the idea here is make it more expensive, make it harder to get all those Yaks down, and make it more of a choice to really kind of go for that strategy. I don't know how much it can affect it. I mean, Faeria 3 to 4 is a big difference, right? Especially because 3 and 4 is a difference between your natural 3 Faeria generation and then either +1ing or having to harvest. So in that sense, that's one of the bigger shifts in Faeria. So we'll see how that affects the prevalence of Skyak. I still think Aurora's Creation decks will go ham on this. Again, it might make green-yellow sack a little harder to play, and combined with Flash Salmon and Skyak getting nerfed, green-yellow sack is looking a little weaker as an archetype. It was already a challenging deck to pilot, and you needed a lot of skill to do it. And then you have this. We'll see what it does to the prevalence of green-yellow sack. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I think it was necessary because those decks are a little crazy, but I don't know how much it's going to affect the Aurora deck, honestly, because it's usually pretty decent at getting extra Faeria. So, I don't know. It's an interesting change. The card needed to get a little bit under control, I think, the combo potential. But the other issue is that green-yellow sack got 2 nerfs to a deck, which really I don't think was particularly OP. It was one of the top tier decks for sure, but it wasn't the problem that warped the meta, I think. So I don't know. I'm kind of sad how it affects green-yellow sack, but we'll see how it goes beyond that. Alrighty, and then last but not least, we got ourselves a Doomdrake. Okay, so the Doomdrake increased power, toughness from 3/4 to 4/4. Desert cost increased from 1 to 2. Here's what they say. Doomdrake has an interesting history. It is very likely that after this patch, this card will become the single most adjusted card on the live servers. After observing the effects of its latest incarnation, we're moving full circle back to the Doomdrake of March 2016. With the recent change to Flashwind, we're no longer concerned with aggressive decks using Drake in a very unfriendly way. It's supposed to be unfriendly, that's what aggressive decks do, but I digress. The goal of this change is to provide another option for yellow flyer decks to include and make it a more sensible card to draft in Pandora, because it is a 4/4 body now, instead of a 3/4. Doomdrake has had a long journey, at times completely dominating the meta, but we hope he's finally found his happy place in life. So what they're talking about, Flashwind used to not require as many deserts as it does now. I think you require like 1 or something ridiculous. So what you could do is drop a Doomdrake down early. It has a charge 2. Flashwind that forward, get onto your opponent's land, drop an aggressive desert, and just go ham on his face. That's what it enabled. So they nerfed Flashwind, and it obviously cut Doomdrake down a little bit. And now with the change to Flashwind, Drake, I still think, I don't know, it's basically slowing down the meta. That's what a lot of these changes are doing. The ramp slowdown, the Doomdrake stuff, all this is kind of trying to make sure that the combo decks, the high land value decks, don't go off as early. So Doomdrake, I think, it's a better body. It's less valuable in Rush. It's more valuable in like a tempo sort of situation, kind of more mid-range style, or even I can see it in yellow control too. It's a pretty good body to trade with, you know. So This one, as a rush player, as an aggressive player in general, I'm kind of sad to see it go up to 2 deserts. But the bigger body's better. Maybe I'll go mid-range now. Maybe that'll be a stronger build. Who knows? I'm kind of torn about this change. Dune Drake was going to be a good tool, and I was thinking of including it when I heard that maybe they were changing Salmon. And then, then I'm like, okay, well, never mind. I'm going to clean that in the yellow rush list. So back to the drawing board we go. That's more or less all the changes we have for now. Happy to hear your thoughts in the comments if you have any to that extent as far as the changes go. And until next time, keep having fun. Keep playing Faeria if you're already, and if not, give it a try. It's a lot of fun. I'm enjoying it. I'm not getting paid, I swear. Alrighty, folks, have fun. This has been a PSA for no good reason. I've been Earth. Till next time. Till then.